morning. Welcome everyone to the fourth workshop in the Energy Partnership workshop series. This is the one that was scheduled back in
March 27th.
March. Back a while ago. Yeah, so today, as I mentioned, we're talking about heating and cooling and insulation. And we have Natasha Pearce is with us today from Efficiency Nova Scotia. So we're just going to quickly get into that. Is there a next slide?
Did I take it with me?
Yeah, you got it.
There we go. Sorry.
So our agenda for today, we're just doing welcome and introductions now. Our workshop focus for today, as I mentioned, Natasha Pearce, and the title of her presentation is Smarter Ways to Heat, Cool, and Insulate. We'll have a short networking break, as per normal, and then have a discussion about some current energy issues, wrap up the next steps. And as always, Leon's provided everyone with a workbook to follow along and to make some notes. And we'll just get right into it. So I'm going to introduce our speaker today, Natasha Pearce. Natasha is the Manager of Energy Solution Advisors at Efficiency Nova Scotia and has been actively working in the field of energy efficiency since 2010. An architectural engineering technician by trade, she has also earned the following credentials throughout her career. She is a certified Passivhaus consultant with Passivhaus Institute US. She's Energy Advisor Quality Assurance Specialist with Natural Resources Canada. As part of her role with Efficiency Nova Scotia, Natasha also provides outreach and training seminars on energy efficiency and building science for various organizations, including the Nova Scotia Building Officials Association and the Nova Scotia Community College, while also coordinating and training a group of community ambassadors to aid in spreading the word of energy efficiency. She is now Canada's first Passivhaus verifier with PHIUS. Natasha's experience throughout her career has allowed her to help simplify the often complex technical details of building science and energy efficiency, and in turn make it more relatable to anyone that she interacts with throughout her day. So welcome, Natasha.
All right, good morning, everybody. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. All right, I know I've got a small room, but just want to make sure. All right, so what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be getting into insulation, heating systems, and basically giving you a full overview of how all those systems work together. First, we're going to get into the basics of energy efficiency, like what is energy efficiency, why it's important, and what the benefits are. Then we'll get into understanding the energy pyramid, as I like to call it. And then we'll get into some overall efficiencies and walls and ceilings and things like that. So, who is Efficiency Nova Scotia? So, Efficiency Nova Scotia was formed in 2010. We are an independent non-profit, which means that we're separate from Nova Scotia Power and the provincial government, and we're regulated by the Utility and Review Board. So we act as our own utility. And basically, we're here to reduce demand for electricity within the province. So we're a third-party, non-biased entity that you can come to for any advice, guidance, and help to get your projects underway. And basically, our funding is approved 3 years in advance. So in 2015, the Utility Review Board approved 3-year, $102 million investment in demand-side management, which is basically reduction in electricity. And we also received some funding from the province of Nova Scotia to continue to support no-cost upgrades for income-qualified homes and also for non-electric homes in the province as well. So we do a bit of both. So what is energy efficiency? Who can answer that question for me?
Do more with less.
Do more with less? Anybody else? Okay. The reason why I ask is because I'm always curious to see what people's perception of energy efficiency is. I'm going to give you the actual terms though. So energy efficiency is using less energy to provide the same service. So exactly what Leon said.
I was actually overly ambitious.
But when we look at energy efficiency, we also look at energy conservation, which is reducing or going without a service to save energy. And both of those kind of align to produce what we kind of know as energy efficiency. So both of those are in there. And the way to kind of look at it is turning off a light is energy conservation because you're reducing or going without a service to save energy. Replacing an incandescent lamp with a compact fluorescent or an LED, which uses much less energy, is energy efficiency because you're still using the same service, but you've installed a product to help reduce the amount of energy that you're using. Okay, does that make sense? Perfect. So how does efficiency benefit you? So basically, energy efficiency competes now as fuel in the fuel mix that Nova Scotia Power put out. So basically, to save 1 kilowatt hour of electricity, it costs about 3 cents versus the average of about 12 cents to use 1 kilowatt hour of electricity. So energy efficiency, as we call it, is the cheapest form of fuel that you can use. So you should be investing in energy efficiency versus investing in using the electricity through Nova Scotia Power utility. Who knows what the residential rate is for electricity from Nova Scotia Power right now? No. 12 is the average across all suites. So for businesses, it's around 12 cents average. For residential customers, it's about 15 cents per kilowatt hour. So it's a bit more expensive for residents than it is for a business, depending on the industry that you're in. So still, even then, 3 cents looks a whole lot more appealing than 12 cents or 15 cents per kilowatt hour. Electricity efficiency in general as well directly creates over 1,200 full-time jobs within our province, and that number is growing. These are people who are directly affected by programs that Efficiency Nova Scotia offers and runs. So it's much more widespread than that. Those are just the ones that we can capture through administering our services and programs. So the energy efficiency industry in Nova Scotia is growing. It's definitely something to get yourself invested in because there's going to be more and more potential coming over the next few years. And also we can't forget about the carbon. So carbon's a big motivator for a lot of people. And so far, since we adopted the programs in 2010, we've calculated that electricity efficiency has prevented enough carbon dioxide to take 115,000 cars off of the road, which is a lot of cars. There's a lot of cars in Nova Scotia, but that's a big chunk of them. We also work with 100 local partners to deliver the energy saving service, and to date we've helped over 225,000 Nova Scotians to save energy in their homes, which amounts to roughly an 8% reduction in annual electricity. Also lower power bills by 110 million in 2016 alone. So that's just 1 year of offering programs and services and advice and guidance, $110 million in 1 year, which is a pretty significant number. And we also helped 1,300 low-income homeowners last year save money in their home as well. So, the energy pyramid. So when I talk about the energy pyramid, basically when I'm talking to anybody about energy efficiency, this is the kind of structure that I kind of promote that they follow. So the first thing we want to do is conserve. And the reason why is because you can't use energy, like if you're not using it, then you can't pay money for it, right? So energy conservation is the first step that I always encourage when I'm talking to people. Then for anything that's left over, we have to use some energy. So anything that's left over, we want to get that as energy efficient as we possibly can. So that is in the way of lighting and appliances and things like that. And that's when the renewables come in, and they start to become a lot more feasible when you've taken care of the energy conservation and the energy efficiency beforehand. So they start to look a whole lot more appealing, and the costs are definitely reduced. So basically, you don't want to put renewables on for anything other than what's necessary for you to use in your home or your business. And then we have the stages of efficient design. So this kind of, again, like I like pyramids. Pyramids are one of my favorites. So when we're looking or we're offering advice on any upgrade within a business or within a home, the first thing we're going to focus on is our building envelope, okay? And that kind of speaks to our conservation. If we increase our insulation and we work on our building envelope, then really that reduces the load for the rest of the home. So that's our first kind of base layer of our pyramid. So the first thing we should always be thinking when we're looking at upgrades is building envelope first. And then we can start to look at things like heating and hot water systems, because obviously next to, once we've reduced the building envelope, heating and hot water is our next biggest load in our home. And then we can look at the lighting and appliances, and again, kind of following that previous pyramid up, renewables again are at the tip of that pyramid. So once you've addressed everything else, then the renewables again become a lot more feasible and a lot more realistic for a lot of businesses and homes that are doing upgrades. And kind of the logic that follows is the building as a system logic. So basically we look at how everything's working together to see the overall savings and the overall potential of the home. So basically we look at the planning and we look at attention to detail and we look at kind of how to help the owner, designer, and builder develop a successful strategy for optimizing their energy efficiency. And it's a bit more work up front, but it means better savings and less work down the road in terms of maintenance and things like that. So when we think about insulation, more is always better. There is definitely a sweet spot with insulation where the more you add, you're not going to see as much return on your investment. And so what I do is work with homes and with businesses to kind of find their sweet spot. What is the perfect point within your envelope that you're going to max out on insulation, so you're seeing optimal savings for optimal return for your investment. Okay. So there's lots of different ways to do this. Some of the more common ways that we're seeing, obviously in a lot of homes they have 2x6 or 2x4 construction, so they're kind of building outwards, so they're going with rigid foams and things like that on the outside. And that strategy works really well for small businesses as well. We're seeing a lot of small businesses upgrade their envelope because, especially in even larger commercial spaces where before the code didn't really put much precedence on insulation, they're finding ways to kind of retrofit, and they find the easiest way to do that is to go on the exterior rather than work from the interior in. So rigid foam is a good way to accomplish that and be able to add layers of insulation without compromising what's within your envelope. The other way we're seeing it for new construction is staggered stud construction. So it allows you to get a good amount of insulation in the cavity without worrying about any thermal bridging that's going on between those studs. So that's another very popular method, especially with new constructions. And this works really well with either wood frame construction or with steel stud construction as well. So it's been a popular method, especially when we start to look at like the Passivhaus concept. Staggered stud is a good route to take. And then there's also ICF. The ICF is really great, and we see that quite commonly used now in commercial structures, especially if they're not too large.
Can you explain ICF?
Yeah, so it's an insulated concrete form. So it's basically two pieces of rigid insulation filled with concrete. So your form is already there. So that's the nice thing with insulated concrete forms is because your form is already there, you just have to pump it full of concrete and your wall is done. So it really cuts down on a lot of your labor. And the nice thing with it too is it creates a very tight seal, so your home or your business ends up nice and airtight, so you're not losing any durability or anything like that. So you can get them in various thicknesses. The most common one we see is the R22, which is right here. So it's basically about 6 inches of concrete with rigid insulation, about 2 inches of rigid insulation on both sides. And they come like Lego blocks that you stack and build up, and then you pump the concrete into the center to reinforce the wall. So they're pretty popular. They're pretty expensive though. So there's only certain projects where they kind of work out to the betterment. There are obviously multiple different ways to address things, and that's kind of what I do is kind of show people all the options, and then they can go away and kind of say, okay, what would be the price point on this option versus this option, and they can kind of figure out the return on their investment and how that's going to work with their budget. So I'm all about giving as much information and as many options as possible, so that you can kind of make an informed decision before you kind of leap into a project. So airtightness is also a big component. So So basically what we do when we're doing any building, if we're looking especially at the envelope, we're going to do a blower door test, which is basically this piece of equipment right here. Who's ever seen a blower door test? Good. So you're familiar with this beautiful fan. So basically what happens is we put the fan in the door, we depressurize the building, and we measure the air changes per hour that the building is experiencing, which is basically the amount of heated air or heated volume of air that's moving through the home each hour. So basically the higher the number, the worse the air leakage is. So you want to try and get that as low as possible. For older buildings, we see an average air change per hour of about 8. And for passive house buildings, we've been able to get it as low as 0.6 or even lower. The lowest I've seen is 0.1, which is extremely tight. Like basically it's like living in a vacuum pretty much. Like you have to make sure your ventilation is great. But really the reason why we air seal is not so much to help prevent against drafts. Yes, that's important. Like we want to be comfortable and we don't want to be living in like leaky properties or working in leaky properties. But big thing with air is not so much the cold that we feel from it, but it's the moisture that it brings into our envelope. And moisture is the cancer of a building envelope. Basically, it really deteriorates and shortens the lifespan of your envelope. So the more air that you can mitigate and get rid of, and the tighter you can make your property, the better. Basically, you're going to extend the lifespan. Everything's going to last a lot longer, and your durability of the building is going to be extended. All right. So once we've kind of looked at the insulation and the air sealing and our envelope is all kind of squared away and looking really good, then we can start to look at the heating and cooling systems. So there's lots of different options. There's central systems and then there's auxiliary systems. So a lot of the common central systems that we see are hydronic boilers, so hot water boilers, furnaces, which are hot air, electric thermal storage. Who's familiar with electric thermal storage? Okay. So electric thermal storage is basically a great big electric heater that's able to store heat energy. So it has great big ceramic blocks in it that when you run the electric elements in them, and it's able to, those blocks retain the heat for a certain period of time. So they work very well if you go on a time of day rate with Nova Scotia Power, because you can heat your blocks up at night when you're off peak. And when it's cheaper to use your energy, and then you can release that heat throughout the day. So they're very popular with people who are on that rate set up with Nova Scotia Power.
Natasha, a question. Is that still the only way to get on time of day rates?
So the only way to get on time of day rates is if you have a storage system, so either with electric thermal storage, or if you're doing in-floor heat.
In-floor hot water.
In-floor hot water or in-floor electric.
Okay.
And the reason why is you need some form of storage.
Okay.
So right now, as far as I'm aware, those are the only methods that are accepted. You either have to have electric thermal storage or you have to have in-floor heat.
Is there a possibility that they will expand that to battery storage?
Very unlikely at this point.
Unlikely.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, I'm of the understanding that they're actually trying to scale back this program
Oh.
even more and make it even tighter and harder for people to get set up on those rates. So yeah, so right now, as far as I'm aware, the only way to do it is through these systems or through in-floor heat storage through in your electric.
Yes.
Yeah, generally, yeah. There are people who are running geothermal in-floor systems, and they have time of day rates because they have electric backup in their geothermal system. You can also get electric thermal storage boilers that have the blocks in them as well that you can use for in-floor systems. So Nova Scotia Power doesn't really care right now what system you're installing, as long as you have the storage capacity in either your slab or in a block form within the heater itself.
So with the solar in-floor heat, if you go to backup electric, they'll give it to you too?
I haven't run across anybody who's been solar in-floor heat that's gone on time of day. Generally, I find the time of day rates are touch and go for some people, because some people find them really hard to adapt around. So when I'm having the conversation with people who are looking at time of day, because it definitely does work for some people in their lifestyle, but you have to be able to adapt your entire lifestyle around rates. So what I always encourage people to do is keep themselves a journal for a month of their usage and when they're kind of using their main power, because people see the heat savings, but they don't necessarily see the savings in their regular everyday lifestyle. So what we see is that they're saving a big chunk, but then they've still got 1,000 to 1,500 kilowatt hours a month being used during those peak times because they can't adapt everything else, and that can lead to a big cost deficit, because if you're looking, so your standard rate is 15 cents, peak rate on time of day rates is 19 cents, and that's during your key times when you're home doing things like cooking and watching TV and all those kinds of things. When you want to be living in your home, that's when the peak rate kind of comes to bite you. So you have to make sure that you can adapt yourself around it. So I don't discourage anybody from it, but I just kind of try to educate and make sure that they're making 100% the right decision for themselves before they sign on the dotted line, because it's expensive to go on time of day rates as well, because you need a new meter and you need to install equipment like electric thermal storage if you don't have a storage system already set up on your floor.
So I was actually approached by someone who said, can I get an ETS unit just to get on time of day and then get a power wall? So that then I can just always buy power at the low times and then even feed my, you know what I mean? Is that the way into time of day use for electric storage?
It could be, but it seems
expensive. That was my response.
Yeah, I mean, to put it in perspective,
at this time,
the electric thermal storage units, like the room units that they sell, are the same price generally as a ductless mini split heat pump.
yeah.
So for me, I would rather guarantee myself the savings with a ductless mini split heat pump than putting in a glorified electric baseboard that you're getting the same efficiency as an electric baseboard from, and then you have to navigate around the rates. Because really, with a heat pump, you're saving the energy and saving the money, versus with electric thermal storage, you're not really saving any energy, you're just displacing when you use the energy, right? So for us, the more efficient option would be to go with a heat pump. But we won't discourage anybody from it, but we just try to make sure they're aware of the facts. But yeah, there's been people who've tried to circumvent it. And Nova Scotia Power did a really good job for a long, long time of really promoting electric thermal storage and kind of saying it was amazing and then it was, but they weren't really giving everybody the full facts. So that's what we try to do, is just make sure that everybody has the keys, like this is the efficiency of the units, these are the rates, this is when the rates apply, and kind of let them build their own case study of what's going to fit best for their lifestyle. So then we get into the heat pumps. So we have the air source heat pumps and the geothermal heat pumps. Both can be run centrally. So with the air source heat pumps, you can run them either hydronically now. So we have air to water heat pumps that you can run through hot water inflow, or we have them with central air. So you can run them through a furnace system. So they work really nicely for retrofits with people who have oil forced air heat. We see a lot of people putting in centrally ducted air source heat pumps to try to reduce that oil. And then the geothermal is the same thing, so you can run that with hot water or furnace as well. And the nice thing with the geothermal heat pumps is you can actually piggyback off them as well for your domestic hot water supply. So you can kind of get double duty out of them, although they are very expensive. The minimum cost I've ever seen on a geothermal system is around $40,000. So, but if you have the capital to do it, and you want something that's going to serve double duty for you, they are an option for some people. And then we have our auxiliary systems. So if you have electric baseboard right now in your property, these are some of the add-on systems that you can add, which will help reduce your usage or help you manage the electricity that you're using in the home. So we have the electric thermal storage room units, which basically just look like a big baseboard, and again, you can get those on the time of day rates. We also have the mini split ductless air source heat pumps. So those are really, really popular right now. It seems like everybody's putting them in for good reason. I mean, heat pumps are anywhere from 200 to 300% efficient, and if you put in enough, you can save between 40 to 60% on your heating costs alone through putting in any kind of heat pump. So there are big savings to be had. The trick with heat pumps is making sure they're correctly sized for the space, and that you are kind of making sure you do your research and your homework and that you're getting multiple quotes and things like that. Because there have been a lot of fly-by-night installers in Nova Scotia who have kind of just learned how to slap them in, and then we're getting lots of calls from people who are not happy with the equipment. So always do your research. Make sure you're going with a reputable installer who has refrigeration certification and a licensed electrician on staff. But they are becoming very, very popular, and we are seeing people with the savings being achieved from them. And then wood and pellet stoves are also very popular, mainly the wood stoves here in Nova Scotia because we have an abundance of wood. So a lot of people still want to burn wood in their homes or their businesses. And we see a lot of wood furnaces and wood boilers as well still here in Nova Scotia, which we encourage because they're technically carbon neutral, because you're burning wood that's already put carbon into the atmosphere and kind of remove carbon. So yeah, so where possible, we always encourage people to try to move in the direction of a central system, especially if it's a new construction. And the reason why is a central system allows you so much more flexibility down the road if you want to change up your system or upgrade, because basically the way the analogy I kind of use is like this: the central system is like your heart, and then your arteries and your body. So instead of replacing the entire system, or keep adding to it, or giving yourself a pacemaker, so to speak, to keep yourself going. If you go with a central system, if you ever need to, you can just give yourself a heart transplant, replace the heart and the arteries and everything, keep going through your veins, okay? So that's the analogy I kind of use, and it works. It may be a bit gory for this early in the morning, but people tend to understand that a lot better. So your infrastructure is there, and then you just have to replace the heart every now and again when you need to do upgrades, or you want to get more energy efficient, like if a new product comes onto the market. It does sometimes mean that there are higher initial costs, but again, it's easier to adapt to future situations. It also provides a way for you to hide your heat source, so a lot of people like things hidden. They like the in-floor grates and everything kind of behind, and they like to maximize their floor area too, which also helps with, half the baseboards and stuff on the room. So the only key thing is that you do have to allow extra room between your floors. If you're doing like a forced air system and things like that, you have to allow the room for ductwork. So if you're in the planning stages of a new build, we just advise people to account for that, the extra room between the floors.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Do you know offhand what percentage of houses that are being built now are using which central systems?
So the majority of ones that I see come through our new construction program are going with a central air source heat pump, or they're putting in electric baseboard with the ductless mini split heat pumps. They're doing either or. We definitely are still pushing people towards a central system, but a lot of the builders are finding it more cost effective to do electric baseboard with the ductless mini split heat pumps.
And they're putting the mini splits, more than one mini split in a house?
Yeah, so standard generally that we see is bungalows on basements. So what they'll do is they'll put one on the main floor and then they'll put one in the basement. The nice thing with the ductless mini splits too is that you can add them sequentially, like as the years go on. So what a lot of customers do, especially with retrofits, is they'll put one in their main living area, and then in a few years when they kind of recoup some of those costs in their savings, they'll put their second unit in. So they're kind of nice because you can kind of plug and play with them. Like you can add one, see some savings, and then add your second one, so you can kind of upgrade incrementally as you kind of see the savings, which is.
So are the electric baseboards considered the backup then? Is that how they do it?
They would be the backup, although they can't be. The mini split heat pumps can't be classed as a primary heat source because they don't have an integrated backup, and there are times of the year, obviously, when it gets too cold that they can't function. Right. So the baseboards are purely there. They are a backup in sense of running the system, but they are a primary heat source and a source of insurance. So
and people find that to be cost effective. How much are the mini splits?
So the ones that we encourage people to put in through our programs generally range in about $4,000 to $5,000 for one system.
That's pretty standard.
Yeah. But people are seeing
so like a Mitsubishi or any of those food
Yeah, so there's lots of brands on the market now, and they all they're like big umbrella brands that have like multiple smaller brands underneath them. But there's lots of good options on the market now. And we actually have a list on our website of all the heat pumps that we allow rebates for. And the way we kind of work that is we look at cold climate heat pumps. So heat pumps that are guaranteed to produce an efficiency of 200% at still minus 15 degrees outside. Because obviously we live in a cold climate and we want to make sure that when the temperature reaches minus 15, our heat pump's still going to be running and it's going to be running efficiently. So there's a beautiful list on our website of all the heat pumps that meet those requirements. So if you're curious.
And people are installing heating and cooling? They're
Yeah.
doing that for heating and cooling?
Yeah, so generally the ductless mini splits have both functionalities.
Right.
So they have the heating and then they have the nice added bonus of the air conditioning as well. We
Can I
don't tend
ask
to
one
promote
other
the air conditioning because obviously if somebody's not cooling their home right now and then they put one in and they start to cool, then their electricity costs in the summer months are going to go up. So we try to just make them aware of that. Like if you're not using a window air conditioner right now or something in the summer, then your costs are going to go up in the summer months. But if you are using those systems in the summer, then your costs are going to go down. So it depends on the situation that's going on.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Also with those mini splits, you can have one unit outside and up to 4 or 5 heads inside.
You can. The only issue with that is the more heads you add, the lower the efficiency of the overall system is. So generally we don't recommend more than 2 heads attached to one outside unit, just because it does limit the efficiency by quite a substantial level.
Some systems though will heat one room and offset cooling in another room too as well, so.
Yeah, the technology is advancing at quite a remarkable rate, especially with the mini split heat pumps, but we still see quite a substantial decline in the heating efficiency if we have more than 2 units attached to an outside system. So generally we don't recommend it unless there are some manufacturers who are really kind of pushing the envelope on multi-head systems. So there are certain systems where it's not as big of a deal, but with the majority of them that are on the market, we're still not seeing great advances in multi-head systems above 3 attached units. And also like the information that we gather on these systems comes from Natural Resources Canada, and so when they test multi-head systems, they only test with two heads. So it gets a lot harder for us to kind of interpret what the savings are going to be and kind of give accurate information to customers that are talking to us. So it's just a bit of a guessing game and a bit of a gamble if you're going more than 2 heads, because we can't confirm what the results may be in terms of efficiency. So there are definitely people doing it and seeing benefits, but we don't encourage it more than 2 heads right now. But that depends on the system that you're putting in.
Could I ask one more
Yeah.
question quickly?
Yeah.
What about multiple unit dwellings? 24 unit apartment buildings, what are they using for heating systems these days?
Yeah, so we see a mix. We see some that are still using central systems.
Like
So
a boiler?
Like a boiler or forced air, some of them. But a lot of them, the new builds that are going up are using, again, like electric baseboard, and then they're putting a mini split in each of their dwelling units. So that's quite common. There is actually a brand new Passivhaus certified multi-unit building going up in the city. And they, because it's a passive home and they've really paid attention to the building envelope, they're actually just heating those units with electric baseboard, and they're still going to come in with an annual operational cost for each unit of around $100 a year.
Wow.
Because they paid so much attention to the
That's
insulation, which is why like this is important, but the insulation is even more important because there's a lot you can do and a lot of weight that insulation can carry for you to reduce those heating loads.
No, it's making them green, Natasha. It's making the text green.
Oh, okay. So we already touched on some of this. So yeah, I mean, the mini split heat pumps range in size between about 9,000 BTUs per hour to 24,000. You can get them slightly bigger, but this is the general range that we're seeing. And they are zone heating solutions. So they heat the area that they're in. So you can't generally expect to put one in and have it heat your entire home comfortably, but it will heat your main living area. So what we tend to encourage is that you put it in your main living area. If your bedrooms are all on that level, keep the doors open, you'll probably get some benefit, and then you'll probably need baseboards in those rooms as well, just to kind of bring them up to a comfortable temperature. They're kind of overkill to put one in every single bedroom. And then the central heat pumps, these range in size. Generally the smallest one that you can get is around 24,000 BTUs. So if you're looking for a solution that suits your entire home or building, these are really a great fit. And you can get them to fit within a furnace or boiler configuration. So what should you be looking for when you're looking for these heating systems? So if you're looking for a heat pump, you wanna, the first thing and the main thing that we focus on, especially here in a heating climate, is the heating seasonal performance factor, which is the HSPF, which is basically the heating efficiency of the unit. So how well it's gonna operate during the winter months to offer you that heat that you need. A lot of the manufacturers in the US, or the cut sheets that you'll see for heat pumps, focus very heavily on SEER, which is the seasonal energy efficiency ratio. That's the cooling efficiency, and the reason they focus on that is because a lot of the manufacturers are in the States, where more of the climate is a cooling climate, so that's their main pitch. And then there's the energy efficiency ratio, which is basically how well the heating and cooling efficiency combine, so the overall efficiency of the unit. And then we also, we call out separately the coefficient of performance for each of these. So we look at that looks at the overall operating efficiency at a certain temperature. So this is kind of a typical, what a typical cut sheet would look like when we kind of research a system on Natural Resources Canada. And this is what Energy Star requires for these numbers. Now, the key to remember is this region 5. So we are in region 5. Most of the manufactured cut sheets for heat pumps are for region 4, which is the States, which means that their numbers look higher. As you can see here, this is a region 4 number, so 13.8. This same system in our climate has a HSPF of 12. So you can see it's a lower number because we have a harsher climate. So that's one thing to keep in mind, is when you see the region 4 number, always factor in that it's going to be lower for our region, because we're in a colder climate, more harsh environment. So a lot of the manufacturers or the heating contractors and things still give it to you in region 4, so just ask if they can give it to you in region 5, and if they can't, then you can call me and I can get it for you for region 5. Okay? And you can't always rely on this sticker either, because sometimes if it has a sticker, it may be Energy Star qualified in the States or in region 4, but it's not Energy Star qualified here. So don't just rely on that blue sticker to say, oh yeah, it meets the requirements, because it doesn't always work that way. I've seen a lot of people get thrown that way. So what are the savings? So if we put in a wood stove, you can generally stand to, they run about 75 to 80% efficient. Okay.
To what?
To what?
Mm-hmm.
To compare, so basically, so the way we kind of relate that is for every dollar you spend in wood to put into it, you get about 70 to 80 cents worth out in heat. Okay? Because it's a combustion
do it to
plant.
hire that bee, right?
I wish it worked that way. Electric, so for any electric system, regardless of the capacity that it's in, it is 100% efficient. So don't ever let anybody tell you that one electric baseboard is more efficient than another, because they're all 100% efficient. The size may change and the wattage may be different, but they're all 100% efficient. So basically for every dollar you put in, you're getting your dollar worth of heat out. That's kind of the way that we relate it. So because you're not losing anything in the combustion process, you're just paying Nova Scotia Power your dollar, and they're giving you a dollar worth of energy. Okay? For heat pumps, because you do still have to run a little bit of electricity, but because you're taking most of the heat from the air or the ground or wherever you're pulling the heat from, for every dollar worth of energy that you spend to run that heat pump, you get about $2 to $3 worth of energy out of it, because it's harnessing that energy that's already created in our environment, right? So these by far are your big, and like I said earlier, generally people who put them in their home are seeing between a 40 to 60% reduction in their heating costs during the winter months. Okay? So that's kind of the way, that's the layman's terms that we relate it in, is kind of dollars to cents. So every dollar you put in, you get $2 to $3 worth of heat out.
Just to clarify, the great savings is when you're switching over from electric baseboard,
That's right.
not necessarily from another system.
Right, so the one that we see actually because of the cost ratio, and I'm going to get into that in a little bit, because of the cost ratio between wood and the amount it costs to put in a heat pump, generally people who are running mainly wood don't see much of a saving in their operational costs because wood is already so cheap, versus people who are electric, because electric is expensive, when they put one of these systems in, they tend to recoup their costs within 4 to 5 years. Versus with a wood stove, it works out to about 8 to 10 years, depending on the cost of wood that you're paying for right now. And this is kind of how we're related. So this chart is actually on our website. We update it every quarter. We look at, I actually call places and get average costs across the province for different fuels. And then we put them into the spreadsheet and it gives us the savings for each, or the average cost for each of these. This is for a home that's 1,700 square feet. And so what basically you can see here is that if they're oil, so let's say they're on an old oil furnace, so hot air, they would be spending around $2,500 a year to heat their home, versus if they go to a central air source heat pump, that number could drop to 1,706, right? So what this does is allows everybody to kind of see at first glance like what heating systems they should be considering, because they can see where they are and what options may be available for them for upgrade, and to see a greater saving in their home. It also shows the greenhouse gas savings in tons. So that's the one thing I like to kind of relate to people. So the time of day rates here. So although there's savings, and this is if you're able to operate it perfectly, like within the time of day rates, you do see savings, but you'll see that the greenhouse gas emissions are exactly the same as electric baseboard, because again, you're not saving any energy, you're just displacing like when you use it and saving money on your rate. So you're saving money, not saving energy. Versus the heat pumps, you'll see there's a reduction in greenhouse gases because you're saving energy, because you're not using as much energy to provide the same service. Make sense? And these are all available on our website if you want the links. Feel free to get me your contact information and I can send them to you. And they do get updated every quarter. So to cap things off, so Efficiency Nova Scotia do offer a suite of residential service and business services. Basically, any question or anything you may have in relation to energy efficiency, we can help or answer. And then there are some rebates and incentives to help you along the way as well. So the kind of mantra that we use is that if you have questions or you're not sure or you want to know in terms of what you can look at for upgrades and what rebates may be available for you, is give us a call. This number here is our toll-free number. It's answered from 8 to 5, Monday to Friday. We're one of our energy solutions advisors, who's actually my team that I head up. So you may even be lucky enough that I'll pick up the phone and answer your questions. Or you can email, and again, this email address goes to our energy solution advisors, and they're happy to answer any question, whether it's energy related or not. We will always try to get you along the right path. So if you're in doubt, pick up the phone and call us. Or if you're doing anything and you're like, oh, I wonder if this is going to save me energy, pick up the phone, give us a call, or send us an email. That's it.
Great.
Thank you, Natasha. We do have about 15 minutes for questions, if anybody has any questions for Natasha.
Hi. Have you looked at a comparison of the CapEx and OpEx for operating costs and initial capital costs for any of your systems to actually see what the total cost of energy is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we do that analysis on a deeper level. And actually, the chart that I just showed you is for existing, but we actually have one for new construction as well, where we took like the initial full cost of the system and figured out, okay, these are the savings over the time frame, and these are like the lifespan that it's going to also operate on. So we
Right.
are starting to develop more kind of theory and analysis behind like lifetime cost
Right.
and
Lifetime.
cost savings
Yep.
versus just like immediate cost savings.
And is that on the website?
It is on the website, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Okay.
but if you get me your information, I can email you the direct link as well.
Yeah, I wish we did this last week, because I spent the whole weekend trying to figure that out.
Oh. Well, now you know who to call, right? We'll help you. We'll do it for you. Any other questions?
I mean, this is a far-fetched question.
I'm all for far-fetched questions. Me and Leon wouldn't have the relationship we do if it
With
wasn't for
the
far-fetched questions.
With the increase of all these heat pumps,
Yep,
we're taking heat out of the air
yep.
and using it in our homes.
Mhm.
Is there a possibility, or has anybody ever looked at it, that it would help stop the warming?
I don't
Global
know.
warming.
I don't know if anybody's ever looked at that.
I don't know. I mean, there's a abundant amount of, enormous amount of heat pumps going in.
Yeah.
We're taking that heat out of the air.
The thing I
There's got to
think,
be some
Yeah.
ratio there somewhere.
the key I think with global warming and the warming potential is not so much the air, but it's the CO2, it's the carbon, right? So yes, it's pulling the heat from the air, and it may be pulling some of that carbon in as well. The biggest impact that I can see these having is in that reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, more than the actual it pulling in the air. It's going to be the amount of greenhouse gases that it's reducing, which then reduces the carbon that's being emitted into the atmosphere, which helps slow down the process of global warming, I guess. So it's a roundabout effect, but I don't think it's a direct effect of it drawing in the air into the system.
And they're still,
Purely a heat
they're still
exchange.
powered by electricity,
Oh, yeah.
right? Which
Yes.
is still, in Nova Scotia,
But
still,
the
what is
more-
it, 60% coal?
Yeah, that's
70% fossil
actually,
fuel.
yeah, so, I believe the mix is about 70% coal, and the rest is broken up between like natural gas and renewables and energy efficiency and all sorts of other things. So yeah, really until Nova Scotia Power kind of get on board and kind of reduce the amount of coal that they're pushing into like coal emissions.
I have a slide on that coming up in about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stay
So
tuned.
stay tuned. And that's one thing as well that we're working on. So as much as we're trying to reduce demand for electricity, obviously that reduces the amount of coal emission that's going into the environment. And I mean, to date, we've saved enough electricity to take over, I believe it is something like 90,000 homes off of the grid. So to kind of remove that footprint in Nova Scotia and reduce it by 90,000 homes. So that is significant. To kind of put it into context, we have about 900,000 homes in the province, so we're about 10% there, which is great. Yeah, I think that's kind of a big part of it is getting Nova Scotia Power on board to stop burning coal, because coal is yucky. It's probably the worst thing they could burn in terms of carbon emission. But I think the heat pumps will definitely help with that, and they do use a very minimal amount of electricity compared to like electric baseboards and something like that. So, yeah.
That 8%, that's the homes, that's the two figures you've used, isn't it?
Yes.
Is that 8% since 2010 or?
Yeah.
2010?
Since 2010. Yeah. Yeah. And that 8% is 2015's number, so it's probably even better now. I haven't gotten updated yet for 2016, so we're just kind of accumulating our results for 2016 now. And our annual report, I don't know if any of you have ever read our annual report, but it's usually released April, June time. And it has all those figures in it as well. So if you're really curious and you want a really exciting read at bedtime, then pull out our annual report and give it a read, because there's lots of great information in there on what's happening within the province in terms of energy efficiency.
So is it, and the long-term idea is every 3 years, or it's running every 3 years? Like when the
Yeah, so-
gas comes out, you had the graph which said a 3-year sort of contract.
Yeah, so basically our funds are secured every 3 years
Yeah.
to operate our program. So at the end of actually now we're starting the process for the next 3 years. So what we do is we go and we talk to the UARB and we say this is how much money we need to hit this amount of energy saving target, and we negotiate that with Nova Scotia Power and the province and how that funding is going to be secured. But basically it allows us to know how much we have to meet within 3 years, and it gives us a bit of leeway. I mean, every single year we've exceeded our saving amount that our target. With the same amount of funds that they've allotted us. So every year we're doing better than what they have wanted us to with the same amount of money. So we're doing our best to kind of do more with less is kind of the way that we kind of look at it. Because obviously this impacts like Nova Scotians, and we try to keep things as economical as possible in the way that we operate as an organization. So, yeah.
I have a question on the deployment of Passivhaus within the province. It strikes me that, you know, a standard like Passivhaus can make a really enormous difference in our heating load, which is our biggest load, especially residentially, although I guess in the commercial sector
yeah,
as
in
well.
the commercial sector too, so yeah.
So if we can tack back the heating load, I mean, that's going to do an awful lot. What do you see happening in terms of both new construction and retrofit for a high standard like Passivhaus in this province?
Yeah, so it's something, Passivhaus is something that Efficiency Nova Scotia and Efficiency One are really, really excited about, mainly because we've seen a big uptake in that kind of standard in Nova Scotia. We have about 26 homes right now that have been built to that standard, which is extreme when you consider that next to us, the Ontario has only completed, I want to say 13 or 15 builds to the Passivhaus standards. So we're definitely kind of leading the way in a lot of different things, but Passivhaus is one of them. And so it's gotten us a lot of attention from institutes like the Passivhaus Institute US and from the International Institute for Passivhaus to kind of help us develop these programs and really kind of look at ways to develop the program for our climate, because the international standard is based upon a European climate, and the nice thing with Passivhaus Institute US is they have different climate standards, but their standard is kind of set in what's most common in the US. So they're both looking to work with us to kind of finite the standard for Nova Scotia and for Canada. The way I kind of see it, and especially now with the role that I'm going to be taking on in the next few weeks, is we launched a pilot for Passivhaus in December, in which we were offering $10,000 for anybody who built a passive house. We filled up very, very quickly. We reached our number of registrations. So we initially opened it up for 15 homes, and we reached that cap. We opened it up in October, and we reached a cap by beginning of December. So we opened up availability for another 5 properties to go through, and we hit that within 2 weeks. So there's another 20 passive house projects that are going on right now that are going to be receiving incentives from us. So it was exceedingly popular, a lot more popular than we thought it would be. Like, we were expecting that it was going to be a couple of years before we would finish those registrations. It ended up being capped in 3 months. So we're seeing a need, we're seeing a lot from Nova Scotians, so it's definitely something that we're going to be looking at over the next year to try and see how we can develop that pilot even further and develop the program. We definitely want to get more involved with the multi-units and the commercial buildings as well, which is why, like, I just completed the verifier training so that I can help people who are in that market kind of really get access to the information, because there's really key people in the province who know a lot about residential, but are kind of limited in their knowledge of the multi-unit and commercial buildings. So I didn't want there to be a lost market, and a lost kind of group of people who want access to the information but can't necessarily get it at the standard. So for commercial and multi-unit buildings, especially if they're larger, it will be easier for them to hit the standard and see the same level of savings that we're seeing in a residential home. So, and when I say that, the average home operates on around $1,200 a year to operate, with an annual heating cost of about $200. So when you think like the average heating cost in Nova Scotia right now for people to heat their homes are anywhere from $25,000 to $3,000 a year, and you can look at cutting that down to $200,000 for no more than 10 to 15% increase in construction costs, it's a no-brainer, right? Because basically you add more in terms of insulation, but you're reducing your mechanical system so much that you're cutting out a big amount of cost there. so it all balances itself out. And this is something as well that Housing Nova Scotia are seriously looking at as well for low-income properties, and they just finished a project in Truro where they built 2 side-by-side duplexes, so they're going to be putting low-income families in there because they want to see if they still see the same amount of savings where they're not necessarily driven for energy efficiency behavior. So there's lots of fun things going on right now that we're kind of testing to see where the market's going to take us and what Nova Scotians are wanting from Passivhaus. But it's definitely the way that we're driving our programs for new construction and for renovations in the future. Yes?
Is the province and or the municipalities looking at zoning changes that might promote, protect passive design and solar design and that sort of thing? You know, orientation of streets and all of that kind of stuff?
So it's something we're definitely encouraging. Like if we learn about a new subdivision going for development, we kind of try to get in there. We have a few community designers and urban planners on our staff who are kind of always listening for those kind of developments and things that might be happening, so that we can kind of get in on the ground level and kind of help with the way that that subdivision is laid out or the way that that zone is kind of planned. In terms of the municipalities, it's very dependent on the municipality and how driven they are. You're lucky here in Bridgewater that the municipality is very driven towards like energy efficiency and kind of focused on sustainable development, but not all the municipalities are that way. And that's something that I've been working on for the past year, is just trying to get a lot of the municipalities and the building officials and everything on this kind of page and start to consider energy efficiency as like a major tool. And some of them are even looking at mandatory labeling. So any new property that's constructed has to go through an energy efficiency program or process as part of their permit application. So they get a mandatory energy label on their home or on their business when they construct. So that's something as well that we're kind of working in partnership with them to try and see how that works. Because obviously if you can prove that there's energy savings as well, it makes it a whole lot easier to do business or to get tenants in and things like that. So I have yet to meet anybody who tells me that any of this doesn't make sense. Like energy efficiency makes sense as a whole, and so yes, sometimes there's cost limitations to that, which is why like we try to get people to the point where, okay, this is where your cost benefit is going to cap out for the amount of work that you're doing. So we always want to push people to do as much as they can within a reasonable cost limit.
Is there any other questions? Any final questions for Natasha?
I don't know if this one's a wild card, I'll just throw it out there. But I'm really fascinated by the potential for prefab construction in adopting the Passivhaus standard and other similar standards directly into the sections and the modular pieces. I'm just wondering if you have any perspective on you know, whether that might have a future in Nova Scotia.
Yeah, so we're actually working quite closely with the Manufactured Housing Association right now. We've had a relationship with them for the past few years. And one thing that we've so Efficiency Vermont have actually had a program for several years for super efficient modular and mini homes. And so we're kind of looking to see how we can kind of maybe implement something like that here in Nova Scotia and offer something for low-income housing and things like that. But we're closely working with them. They find it tricky because obviously they're the association, and then there's lots of different manufacturers of those housing. So it's just finding the right partner and a manufacturer who's willing to kind of take that leap, because obviously once they convert their factory, then they have to do quite a lot of runs. So the reason we're doing our research now is so we can kind of provide them with the research so it's less scary for them to make that leap to completely converting to that method of construction, because once they do it, it's very hard to backstep it if it doesn't go well. But they're very on board, they're very open, and we've already made some adjustments to the way those manufactured houses are kind of coming off of the production line due to some upgrades in the code. So they have a very good relationship and kind of a working relationship with us on an ongoing basis. So we're hoping, because obviously manufactured housing is faster and a bit easier to kind of get up and going. So we'd love to see the Passivhaus standard applied in that way. So We just need a test subject, guinea pig.
All right, I think that's, if nobody else has any other questions, let's thank Natasha for her presentation.